Welcome back. We've had some family and friends and a lot of people been buying houses lately. So I thought it'd be something to go over is some plumbing things to check out when you buy a house or you're looking for a house. So let's take a look at some of the things you should check before buying a house. And if you already bought a house, things to check first before you have an issue later. So we'll take a tour around the house at some of the things you should check out. We're going to start in the basement. You may not have a basement, so you may not have a sump pump, but we're going to start in the basement with the sump pump. Check the age of that. If it looks older, if there's no date, you don't know when, your best bet is to replace it, because the only time you have a problem with the sump pump is when it stops working. And at that point, it could be too late. I recently did a video on putting this one in, so you can go check that out. But yeah, check the date of your sump pump or your ejector pits. If you have a downstairs basement, they have an ejector pit which pumps all the nasty stuff into the sewer. So those are things to check with that. This seems pretty straightforward and pretty easy to remember, but water heater. You want to make sure that it's fairly newer. If not, replace it right away, because you don't want the bottom to drop out a week after buying the house. So check the age of your water heater, and you should get 10 to 20 years possibly out of it, depending on your quality of water. Could be, if you have well water or city water, really hard water could affect it, but check the age of your water heater. This should have a sticker on it with the manufacturing date, which this one was in 2015. So not too old, but we're getting there. Another good routine maintenance, or when you buy a house or just move in, is to drain your water heater. I try to do mine every year. I just shut the water off at the main. I open up a couple sinks so it doesn't get airlocked, and I just drain it down. It gets anything that either settled in there, and just keeps it maintained, and the life gives you a better life on your water heater. I think this next one is probably the biggest overlooked part of the plumbing system, just from the fact of when I go to houses, either they've been there for a long time or they just never checked it. But make sure you can shut your water off at the source. So I'm right here by my meter. I have a ball valve, and you can see this moves nice and easy. So check this before you buy your house, or if you just bought it, make sure you can move it. And if it's not moving, don't force it. Have someone come out and get them replaced, because this is your lifeline. If you got a problem with the plumbing and you can't shut it off, you're gonna have a big mess. So I actually have two here. So I have the one before the meter, and then I have one after the meter. So I can isolate the meter if I need to, and they both work. So I actually have two lines of defense if I need to shut the house down. I also have a drain down, so if you're getting the valves replaced, it's always a good idea to put a drain down in. It is now in our state of Illinois required by code on new stuff, but I also see a lot of houses don't have that. It's just easy and convenient for when you have to do plumbing work. This one is very optional depending on your house. So we're on city water with very hard water, so we have a water softener. So it's always good to, one, make sure it works by checking to see if the salt level goes down when you add it. There's some routine maintenance you can look into doing. It's always good to run a cleaning cycle on it when you get there. That way you know it's fresh. And yeah, it's always good to just take a look at your water softener if you have one, and make sure it's working, give you the good quality water you're looking for. I'll do a close-up of this, but this is a gate valve, and if you have a gate valve, these are tends to be an older style. They do still make them, and people still put them in here and there. Typically, you're going to see a ball valve on your water systems, but if you have this, I would test it. If it's very hard, don't force it again, because believe it or not, I've had the stems snap inside and had water shooting out of the valve. Luckily, I had the water off at the street and didn't cause a huge mess. But yeah, it broke and could have been bad. So don't get yourself in a situation. Again, always make sure you have an idea how to shut water off, say the street, before the valve or before that valve, any way to isolate it. But yeah, it's always good to update your valves. The next things you want to check are going to be your angle stops, which are going to be on your toilet, and your sinks. Make sure those turn, and there's different kinds. So this is a quarter turn, so it's only going to turn a quarter, so halfway, like a ball valve, to shut off. Some of them are multi-turn, so you have to keep turning them. And again, if those are really hard, be careful. But that's your first line of defense when an issue arises. Say, toilet's leaking, something like that, your float's stuck, or something's going on, you can shut these off to isolate that. So you can isolate your toilets, your sinks, and all that good stuff. So last things you want to check would be to make sure that your hot water is on your left, your cold is on your right. Try all of your faucets, make sure you have hot and cold water. That's a good time you'll see if your drains are draining, and if that gives you a good idea. So maybe you got to clean some traps, or there's a bigger issue, but it'll see if things aren't draining at that point. Other than that, hopefully these helped. These little tips here for your new house, or even if it's an old house. But things to check when you're into a new house. Maybe you have an old house and you just never checked it. But things to check on your plumbing to make sure that down the line you never have a huge issue. So thanks for watching.